Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today slaying some behemoths, because I'm going to be talking quite a bit about a little game called Dauntless. Dauntless is currently in development on the PC. It just went into its founder's alpha phase yesterday, and it also lifted its NDA, which means I can finally play the game as an alpha founder and talk with you guys about it. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Dauntless and maybe gaining access to the game, I'll have a link to the website down in the pinned comment below. Alpha access is rather expensive. This is for people who really want to support the development of the game. They will be launching into a closed beta in September, which will run about $40, and eventually the game will be seeing its full release later this year in a free-to-play state. Today I plan on talking quite a bit about the core gameplay loop of Dauntless, helping you better understand just what Dauntless is. We'll also talk about the combat and the behemoths themselves. Basically all of the things that make up the current state of Dauntless, and why I think you should check it out, why I think it's a hell of a lot of fun. Let's talk a little bit about that free-to-play model, just to get that out of the way for you guys, though, because I know a lot of people hear free-to-play, and they, like, run and hide in their bomb shelter, and they're like, wait, free-to-play, get that thing away from me. I think it's time we moved on from that, guys. I know there are still a lot of bad free-to-play experiences out there, and I know if you go back 10 years, we saw a lot of stuff come from, you know, Asia, come from the East, that was just pay-to-win trash, and we got fed it again and again and again here in the States, and it put a very sour taste in our mouth. Like when you mix lemonade with milk. It's not good. I understand. But over the last 5+ years, we've also seen a lot of kick-ass free-to-play experiences from really smart developers who know how to handle the platform. Games like Path of Exile, League of Legends, Dota 2, and even recently Warframe. Dauntless is going to be taking a similar approach. The only way they'll be funding the game through microtransactions is through cosmetic DLC. So, all gameplay-focused content, new behemoths, new weapon archetypes, the developing and the purchasing of armor and weapons in-game, crafting weapons and armor in-game will all be through in-game currency. And the behemoths and the weapons will all be free as they're added to the experience. You will only pay premium currency for premium cosmetic items. In fact, there are a plethora of cosmetic items like dyes and flares that can be unlocked just through traditional gameplay. So even then, not all of the cosmetic stuff is put behind that premium paywall. That sounds like a completely sound and A-OK microtransaction free-to-play model to me. I'm 100% on board with it. Now, we definitely need to start by drawing comparisons to probably the only other game that I know that really fits into this exact same genre, and that is Monster Hunter. It's been around for over a decade. It is a legendary franchise to so many of you. And I just want to talk to the Monster Hunter fans for a second. I get it. You guys have had really the only game in this genre for over 10 years. It's been doing its thing. It's been kicking a lot of ass. I wish I could enjoy it on a mobile device, on a handheld. It's just never been for me. And like the one other time, I think, was it 2012? Monster Hunter came to like Wii or whatever. I just didn't have that console at that time, so I never got into it. Now, I know Monster Hunter World is right around the corner. It's multi-platform. That excites a lot of people. We'll definitely talk about that and the competition it's going to give Dauntless at the end of this video. But we should not be upset. You should not be upset as die-hard Monster Hunter fans about the existence of Dauntless. The amount of hate I see for this game is absurd, man. What is wrong with another developer finally looking at this wonderful genre and saying, hey, we want to have a go at that too? If there ended up being 10 Monster Hunter-esque experiences in the next 5 years, I'd be completely fine with that. New developers, testing new waters, coming up with new concepts and ideas for the Monster Hunter-style experience, that's great for everyone. Competition is a very good thing. Monster Hunter World looks fantastic. I'll be buying it day one, but Dauntless looks equally fantastic. And it's going to be out a little bit earlier, it's going to be free to play, it has a bigger focus on co-op than Monster Hunter does, and it's going to be on PC. There's nothing wrong with these two games attempting to exist in the same space, and really at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want. The consumer is going to make that final decision once they play both experiences. I personally will be playing both of them. Now let's move forward, and let's talk about the core gameplay loop that currently exists in Dauntless. To keep things very clear, you start off in a social space where you can meet up with other players. Up to 4 of you could team up and go out on a hunt. Now there's a whole bunch of other things happening with NPCs, and there's a bit of a story, and you have to essentially unlock the ability to hunt different behemoths, and once you do, you can just go out and fight as many of them as you want to gain supplies, materials, to craft better weapon and better gear. But the real experience starts once you actually head out to one of the many Shattered Isles. These all have their own different biomes, based on the behemoth that you will actually be fighting. Once you get there, your airship is going to be on a 30-minute timer before it runs out of fuel. So you have 30 minutes to do multiple things. You can either go hunt down the behemoth and kill it to get the materials from it, go back to your base and try and craft something. Or, and this is actually also something you'll have to do, you can explore the Shattered Isles you land on for crafting materials. Some of the quests that you'll get from NPCs back in the social space are even sort of little fetch quests, like go get me 10 of this flour, you'll bring it back and get some currency or get some crafting materials from that. So you have a lot that you actually can and sometimes have to do in that 30 minutes. Maybe I gotta get a bunch of iron so I can finish making this Gnash axe. And then I'll go hopefully be able to finish off that Ravager behemoth before the timer expires. That's really it when it comes to the ways in which you interact with the things happening on the Shattered Isles. Dauntless currently is very much about the fighting of the behemoths. There's not a lot of other creatures. While you might run into like a ram. Ramsgate is the name of the social space, by the way. Ha ha ha. And that can give you some ether leather. There really are no other predators on these Shattered Isles. Now, I admit, long term, I'd love to see them bring that all to life a little bit more and maybe even give us some other smaller creatures to hunt and maybe compensate by increasing the timer a little bit more. But that's the current state of the game in alpha. They are very much focused on adding a lot of behemoths to the game, dozens more. So having this kind of be like reverse Dota, reverse, Heroes of the Storm, where rather than you constantly having new heroes to play, there's going to be a crap load of new behemoths to fight. So 20 plus eventually. That's, again, where their core focus is at. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot going on the player side of things, and it all starts with the 4 different weapons. So you have, right now in the game, 4 weapon archetypes, starting with the battle axe that I'm wielding. There's a longsword that is sort of your middle ground between speed and power. You've got a hammer that is slow, heavy hitting, but also has a shotgun or like a micro cannon on the end of it with an active reload. Really freaking cool. And you've got the chain blades, which are really fast. They also have a bit of a ranged attack. Now, each of them also has like their own special move that has its own meter, so there's a lot of diversity, a lot of going on with the weapons themselves, and they plan on adding a lot more weapon archetypes as they push through the game's development. So those are sort of the things that you're going to encounter. Those are the things that affect and modify your gameplay experience inside of Dauntless. Now, once you've hunted and killed the behemoth, you're going to get cores, which can be broken open to give you crafting supplies, and that is basically the end of the loop. You're going to be doing that again and again. You might go out and continue to farm standard Ravagers so you can build a Ravager gear set, and then you can use that to go fight like a high-level Shrike or a high-level Embermane, so on and so forth. Behemoths themselves come in 2 different classes, Rogue being the easier or weaker version, and the Standard just being the more powerful version. So Rogue Ravager, easier. Standard Ravager, harder. That's the basic concept. Now, I think Dauntless really kicks into gear and really gets good once you actually encounter a behemoth for the very first time. It's clear that the team has put a lot of love into these wonderful and truly magnificent looking creatures. Their design, the diversity among them, their attacks that they have, from throwing liquid hot magma balls to casting giant wind flurries and tornadoes to knock you on your ass and kick the crap out of you, to charging you with extreme speed and strength. There's a lot of diversity between the behemoths that I've experienced already, and they're also just so full of life. Their animations, the way they breathe, the noises they make, their little mannerisms that really make them feel like proper magical creatures. Honestly, as a kid, I remember my mom reading me a lot of fantasy books and, just the Fantastic Beasts and, all these wonderful creatures that you'd sort of dream up in your head as you read something like Harry Potter and you tried to envision what this looked like or what that looked like. And, as you grow up, you start playing fantasy RPGs and you start to experience those things firsthand. And there's that true element of magic, of wonder to those things. And I think the team at Dauntless has absolutely captured that with the behemoths. I truly feel awful every time I kill one of these things. It starts with this sort of elation of, yes, I won that battle against that damn Embermane. Did you see that? And then you look at its body and it's sort of moaning and its last breath, and you finish it off. And then there's just this passing of sorrow. It's very much, for me, as a hunter in real life, like taking the life of an animal. You understand why you do it, and you respect that creature, and there's some excitement, but you do feel for that creature. And that's exactly what Dauntless manages to portray to the player. Maybe I'm just a big softy, but I think they really did kill it with the design. And when you see that Ravager get up on its hind legs and bark at the air, and then you move in for that attack, that's really special. That's really special, guys. And, of course, well, that's just the emotional side of it. It does boost the fun factor, but the real core gameplay enjoyment comes from learning their attack patterns and, you know, learning how to use your weapon. There's so much personal progression that happens in Dauntless in just like the first 4 hours. I know the first 3 hours for me was a big learning curve. I went from killing a Ravager in like 27 minutes to killing it in 20 minutes. So again, a lot of personal progression as you get better with the weapons you decide to use, understanding their combos, getting a better read on the creatures so you can be more efficient in killing them. That's a big part of that core gameplay loop as well. Now, when you get farther up the Ravager, when you get farther up the Behemoth tree, if you will, things definitely start to get challenging. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a game that focuses a bit more on co-op than something like Monster Hunter. They're going for that shared world, Destiny-style experience. So you can solo it like I've been doing, but there are certain fights that you will really need to extra gear up for if you decide to solo, whereas you could traditionally go in if you decided to co-op with the group and have a challenging fight, but still be able to complete it in a set amount of time. So they're not aiming to make this an easy experience. In fact, one of the quotes I saw from the developers was they're going for like a 90% failure rate for first-time run-ins with Behemoths. They want you to fail, and they want you to learn from that failure, and they want you to continue to develop yourself, learn about the Behemoths that you're fighting, and, you know, master a sort of tactic to take them down, and then move on to the next Behemoth, and then have to learn all over again. In my experience, the jump from Rogue to Standard can be really big, like a huge learning curve. You know, going from, like, the Rogue Shrike, which is that sort of owl creature, to the Standard Shrike was like, whoa, I got my ass kicked. You know, so it's not an easy game by any means. I would like to see some of the, like, skill shots that some of the Behemoths have be a little bit more precision, a little bit more difficult to dodge. Even in the Rogue state, I think making sure that the Rogues are a little bit more challenging than they are currently would help make that learning curve as you jumped from Rogue to Standard feel a little bit more easy to deal with, especially for solo players, which I know are, that's sort of the smaller spectrum, they're not really aimed for that, but still, even for co-op, I think making, again, the Rogue versions of these Behemoths punish you a little bit more would definitely be a good idea long term. That's really, though, where the future potential for Dauntless lies, is really getting a lot of these Behemoths in-game and, you know, pushing for variety and diversity in how these Behemoths can attack you and engage you. A few of them, again, have ranged attacks. I'd love to see them experiment with that more. Some of the high-level Behemoths I've seen, like, shoot spikes out of the ground and destroy entire areas. That's going to be really cool, and I think that also opens up the potential for them to eventually add ranged weapons to the player side of things. Right now, everything we have is melee, apart from the Chain Blades, who have sort of a ranged attack. I'd love to see some archery stuff put in there. You know, some actual, some more firepower-based stuff, maybe even like some cannons or some mortars or like some flintlocks. They could really do some cool stuff with the weapons, and again, that would boost the replayability of the game, and that would boost the overall diversity of the core gameplay loop. Now, it is very early alpha. They've done a great job, I think, in polishing that core gameplay experience. Combat across the 4 weapon types feels great. It may not look fantastic. I think when you watch the game, it's hard to really get a feel for how good the combat does actually play, but it feels meaty. It's extremely satisfying, especially when you're learning a big, heavy weapon like the axe. There is a really large level of gratification to mastering those combos and stringing them together flawlessly, dodging at just the right time, going back into a combo. It feels good, trust me, guys. It feels really, really good. It's just hard to see that by just watching a video. If I had one major criticism, one thing I'd like to see them look at as they push through their alpha development into closed beta later this September, it's making the actual finding of the Behemoths a little bit more special. Right now, you basically land on those Shattered Isles, you listen for the cries of the different Behemoths, which is cool. You know, I love the audio design in the game, and then you just go find it and hunt it and kill it. Sometimes it'll disappear to a different zone, you'll have to go find it, but it's all just kind of random based. You're just listening and then trying to find it. I'd love to see them put in some actual tracking mechanics, like maybe different Behemoths leave behind different markings. So maybe the Ravager leaves burrows, because that's what it does. It burrows underground. So maybe you can see the remnants of a burrow, and you can kind of read what direction the burrow went and use that to try and figure out where it's gone to track it into that initial fight. Maybe something like the Shrike, you know, scratches at trees or leaves behind feathers. You know, maybe the Embermane leaves giant gashes and rock faces. Giving us a way to actually hunt and track the animal, I think, would really add to that experience. There definitely would have to be modifications made to that 30-minute timer, but I just think that would be something that would make, again, the hunt and the kill way more just emotionally involved and way more exciting. So that's my big piece of feedback for the team over at Dauntless. Other than that, this is a game I'm so excited for. The fact that it's free to play, the fact that I can just tell people about it long term once it releases and say, hey, it's December, I'm playing this game Dauntless. You guys should all, everybody from the network, download Dauntless. Let's play it together. We're going to start a guild. We're going to get things rocking and rolling. That's obviously a really big appeal. Monster Hunter World is definitely something on the horizon. It's coming to PC. It's coming to Xbox One, coming to PlayStation 4. Fortunately, Dauntless will have the advantage of being out sooner if everything goes well. But there's no doubt that there's going to be a bit of competition there, and I think that's a good thing. I think, these are going to be games that do finally exist in the same genre. It's not a matter of, hey, Tony, go play God Eater, go play Dark Souls. No, I want another game like Monster Hunter, and they'll actually exist. And hopefully they'll be able to provide different enough experiences that there's a reason to play not just one or the other, but both of them. Especially considering Dauntless is free to play. Buy Monster Hunter, play Dauntless for free, profit. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any other questions, thoughts, or concerns about Dauntless, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And as always, remember to play smart, remember to play to challenge yourself, but most importantly, remember to play for fun.